All right, hello everybody. Welcome to this week's KDF Live. Last week I worked on a few different things. I worked on layering, and here's the kind of the finish of it. So what we did is we worked kind of a rounder side of this, where I pulled everything forward onto a horizontal line. And then this was, it's done for me, and I've created the bob afterwards. And then I did the kind of a different variation of that layered bob that we all like to do on the opposite side. I just wanted to kind of just let you see what that looked like a bit. But today what I want to do is kind of work very similar kind of area. I'm going to work off the bob. I feel that, the bob is such a complicated haircut to actually do. Not complicated theoretically, it's just how we actually achieve it. Because there's a lot of things that we have to look out for. One of the things I like to keep in my mind when I'm cutting hair is I want it to be like a 100-meter sprint with no hurdles. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't want there to be all these things that I have to watch out for all the time. So my mind, what I do is I kind of switch haircuts around so that I'm not having to do that as much. There's always going to be that in a haircut. There's always a challenge that you have to be aware of. But the idea is to kind of minimize that. So with the first side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my bob, but I'm going to work with a circular section to begin with. I'm going to actually start the bob in the front and work it into the back. But I'm only going to cut a certain amount of my outline. What I want is I want a bob line, and I want it to be graduated, and I don't want there to be any interruption on the line. If we cut a very classic graduated bob, what happens is we have graduation in the nape, and then we have this bob floating over the top of it, sitting on there. So what we have is a break in that hairline and that outline. What I want to do is I want to maintain that strong outline, just like these are that we did last week. So I'm going to establish that part first, and then I'm going to use that as the guide. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my circular section. This is the hair that's going to be graduated. So based on how much graduation I want, I'm going to change the size of the circle. So the smaller the circular section that I take, what that means is that means more outline. So I bring this all down and I create my outline, all right? So that means there won't be as much graduation through the interior. Now, if I take a larger circular section, then I have less outline. So then when I use that as a guide now, I cut more into this internal circular section. So what that does for me is it creates a lot more graduation. So we want to kind of gauge it on what we want to create. So I'm just going to go with apex to occipital ridge. Now by doing that, what you'll notice is it's working with the natural rounds of the head shape. So it's kind of evenly balanced on that natural round. Now what that does is it leaves quite a bit of weight falling over the ear. The ear is always a troublesome area. And we're kind of conditioned to cut the bob in a way that works from the back towards the front. And we take little sections. So when we do get to this ear area, we're generally like this. So that's allowing the ear to do exactly what the ear wants to do with no hair falling on it, really. In reality, when you wear the bob, you wear everything down, so it actually pushes the ear into a different place, doesn't it, really? Unless it's a really big ear and, it does its thing. Some people have them. So we have to kind of circumnavigate that ear, don't we? But now with this, what that does for me is it leaves me quite a lot of weight over the ear, and it leaves this hair quite dense. Obviously there's less hair in the front than there is in the back, so that's why I'm working this circular section, so I have a more even distribution of weight within that section. See, now I'll work from the front into the back, and I won't be working section by section of the back and kind of moving towards the front with each particular section, and then possibly losing this line because there's less hair here and we've got the ear. So I'm going to start in the most troublesome area. I'm going to add a little bit of water. So I put this tutorial, the kind of quick reel yesterday on my Instagram, and got quite a few questions asking about that haircut. So I wanted to do this today to kind of take you through the step-by-step and the thought process behind it. Get this as high as possible. All right. So now that I've got that, you see what I've done is I've kind of moved this hair behind the cheekbone. What you can do is you can actually take that area away, the kind of area that you would frame or you would cut a fringe or bangs, and you can leave that till last. And you just work this kind of area that's over the ear. So I'm going to comb the hair down into position, and then I'm going to tap above that ear. What that does is it releases any of the excess tension that the comb's creating. And I can bring the comb down to the length I want to cut it. So I'm going to cut it like last week around this kind of end of the mannequin's neck area. And now I'm working into the area that's got more hair. It's not like I'm working where there's more hair and then working where there's less hair and then possibly making the mistake. When you're cutting a bob and you make a mistake, it's kind of game over because that's the length that you've agreed on, but now you've made the mistake and it's gone shorter, so you've not done what you told your client that you were going to do in the consultation. So now we keep going all the way around. So you see now I've got that line in there. The client can see that line immediately. So it's kind of a psychological thing as well. Not only does it help me, it helps the client feel at ease in your chair. You're not behind them cutting hair for like 10 minutes before you come through to the front. And then there's surprises. So again, just keep that behind the cheekbone. I'm cutting it quite loosely so I don't use a ton of tension. This hair on the mannequin is wavy. I'm just popping it onto that line there. So when I walk away, I have a nice outline there. It's doing its thing. So before I do any of this, let's bring Kelly into it.
Hi. All right, I'm going to be doing a razor cut mullet shape here. I'll show you my sectioning that I did. Now I used my comb here to find the rounds of the head and then section those off. So this first section, the perimeter around the front, we'll be working with some like short pieces and some fringe really tight across the hairline there. And then again, from here down into like that top recession of the ear there. Ooh, I got this clip slide now. And then I found where the occipital bone is here and section that area out. So all of this hair that wants to drop down. So this will be all of our length for the mullet. I really want to kind of carve that out so that this is really, really head hugging as it comes in here, and then that flicks out into the length. So I want to maintain all of this length. This is the doll head I worked on last week as well. So we had round layering on this side and then triangular on this side. So that's why you're seeing this difference in the hair here. But what I'm going to do to attack this haircut is I want to start with the same idea that, you know, when you have a client coming in and you're, especially for this scenario, this is a big change. So I would like to get the big change done first, and then I can, work into the stuff that's more of a trim or detailing and blend it into the big change. We want to really dial that in first. So what I'm going to be doing here is just going to be pulling the hair straight into me, but using the bend of the hair to determine where I'm going to start my layering. So I'm going to take a section about the width of my finger, right down the center, and pull that straight into my chest here, and then kind of hold this tight in the fingers, but then release that tension so I can see where that bend of the hair is and how that naturally wants to kind of, waterfall or cascade down. So I'm going to be starting my layering with the razor right there where that bend is. So I kind of just mark it with the razor, and then pull it back out. Now I'm going to be doing really big strokes here because I want lots of separation and distance. I'm actually going to bring that just a touch shorter because I want this really dramatic today. So same idea, we want to bring that a little bit shorter. Push that in, there. That's my section there. Nice big stroke working with that center of the blade, and then those bangs just fall with the round of the head. So I'm going to be moving around the head in that same idea really quickly. I'm going to do this fast as I would in the chair here. So same thing, pulling that straight out of the head, releasing that tension where I can see where I'm going to start, pulling that out. And then I'm just going to be stepping around the head and doing that same technique. Once I reach the round of the head this way, I'll be elevating that up so that I can maintain some of that length around the bottom. So now I'm going to be elevating that into that last section that I just did. As I'm coming through here too, I'm seeing how dense that hair is in here. I can see kind of in this area that it's really thick, but not so much on the top or the bottom. So I want to release some of that density. So I'm just going to go in and carve out that chunk there. Check where the bend is and work down. I'm going to condense this whole big section here into that last one. Get a good grip on it. So same thing, this is a really dense section, so I'm going to remove some weight. Check the bend into that. So we've got a nice cute flow going into a nice mullet shape. So I'm going to do that same thing on this side.
Okay, so I've got that perimeter, my outline, the bob line, and see now what's going to happen is, let me just take this hair that we see in front of this circular section. So throughout this whole panel that I've just cut down here, what we're going to notice when we take a vertical section, and we now use elevation, what we're going to see is it's a buildup of weight. All right? But that has been cut down here. So that is actually one length, right? But we all know one length isn't technically one length. It's shorter down here, longer up at the top, right? It just falls to a one length line. That's what we mean when we say one length. So if I use that now, and I use that graduation that I see, or that buildup of weight, and I add this on top of it, and I cut with elevation, then I'm going to create graduation through this panel. So I'll start to remove a lot more weight, but it will be a buildup through this area. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a vertical diagonal back section into the circle that I've not cut yet. So I'll go here, and my section goes vertical diagonal back. So take a look at that. See how diagonal that is? It's not a crazy amount of diagonal. It's just slightly. So if this is on the hour, we're just 5 past the hour and 25 till the hour. That's the angle. See, if we start going any more, then we're moving into more horizontal. So then it's all about elevation. This is always, right now, is just going to be about pulling the hair straight out from the head and following that graduated angle. Now, the reason why it's on a diagonal is because a diagonal section covers more space. A vertical section just does that. It affects this. Now I've done that, I'm actually affecting this whole rectangular area. So what's going to happen is, it's shorter here, it's longer there. So it's longer in front of the shorter part. right? Because it's graduation. Now, when that falls, it's going to fall triangular. And with each section, it's going to get lighter and lighter and lighter towards the back. So essentially what you're doing is you're cutting triangular graduation or a triangular shape backwards. Usually we start where it's shorter and we pull away from what we want to keep. Or we create that angle, right? In this sense, we're not. We're going to pull it straight out from the head. By it being graduation on that diagonal, it's going to create a triangular shape. So, you know, if you've taken a class with me, I often refer to like Jedis. This is the Jedi stuff when it comes to cutting hair. It's that challenging yourself a bit further to understand the process of removing weight and how you remove it. So straight out from the head, that guide. No over direction forward. If I over direct the hair forward, it's gonna get heavier towards the back. If I pull it straight out and let this technique do its thing, see, that's the graduation that we see on the underneath, or my outline. That's what I've created. So I'm now just gonna add this onto that. So it starts out by being a little bit, but that circle dropped and went down to the occipital. So it's going to become more and more and more as I move in the back. Next section, same exact process, same exact angle. Use my previous as a guide, but be very aware of where you're directing the hair. As soon as you put the comb in there, it's going to direct forward, right? So you're going to have to compensate for that. So it is all about combing both sides of the section now. Generally, the rule is to comb the side that you're about to cut. But I need to use both, so I make sure that I don't push that hair forward. And there's my guide. So you see how there's more hair now? Because I'm moving backwards, and that circular section, the disconnect, went lower. So I'm going to see more and more hair. So what's happening is it's cutting more hair in the back and it's leaving more hair in the front.
Okay, so working into my back section here, with that same idea of kind of listening to where the hair wants to bend, I want this really tight in here to kind of cascade down into the length. So I'm going to be following that same idea of where that bend in the hair is. This is why I love working with the razor so much, because I can really kind of carve in a shape based upon, you know, the hair's wave or curl or bend, or even how straight the hair is. So just listening to where that wants to collapse down, right? So I'm going to go, actually I'm going to elevate that up a little bit more and then working here. So starting that really short and then giving that long disconnected into it. So we removed all of that weight there, so this will just tuck in to that head shape really, really nicely there. Being mindful of that bend in the hair is really important when doing this type of technique. You want to kind of hit it right at the dip of that S wave right there. If you go any closer to the scalp, like if I started closer here, we would have hair sticking out. So hitting it right at that center of that bend there is going to assure me that the hair is going to lay down flat where I want it to. So right at that drop off and then into the length there. So a really strong disconnect with that razor, but it's blended visually with the technique with the blade, having those big strokes so that there's lots of like flips and kicks and movement. Over direct this back so we have that length around the ear there. Now I'm seeing how dense this section is compared to the rest of that, so I'm gonna take some of that weight out before I go in and cut the layering, just so that we have a consistent flow. So nice and airy down here at the bottom. And that tucks in really nicely. So do the same thing on this side. I'll be taking off more hair on this side because this was our round last week. Over the top of it there, still at that center of the blade, and dropping down into that length. These haircuts can move so quickly with the razor once you get that blueprint in with your sectioning and have a plan and know how much weight to take out. These can move pretty quick through the appointment and save time. Move on to the next one.
It's so funny that I was teaching the other day in Seal Beach here in California, and I showed the nape area of the French bob, right? I did it technically with scissors, and then I showed how to do it with the razor. And then obviously the razor was much quicker, and it was still technical because I was working through with the section. But then I just decided to just comb everything down and use the razor this way with the pressure and make that graduation happen even quicker.
Yeah.
So the razor is such an amazing tool to grasp.
Well, and learning.
It's going to change the game.
Totally, and learning how to use it, right? Like it is more free flow, more sketching, but it can, you still need to know those fundamentals.
For sure.
Right? And know what you're working on. So I'm going to take a look here. All right. So now I'm going to move up into this top front section. I'm going to be doing, working, let me drop this down a little bit. I'm going to be working this way backwards with my sectioning, coming over the top with my blade here and using this length at the very top of my fringe section as my guide to carving into these top sections of our mullet, because we know that we want this shorter in the front and to hella long in the back. Okay, so taking these sections here. Okay, combing that guide into where I'm going to be cutting. Pulling that flat out. Where's my guide? So about there. It should be there. Lots of cute, fun, short layers in the front there. So I'll just be doing that same technique, working here, and then I'll flip it over and do it on the front on that side.
So I've worked to about the natural round of the head here in the back, from the sides into the back. And what I've just done is I've just done a quick cross check to make sure that I'm on the right track. You know what I mean? You want to kind of do that every little area or zone so that you know that you're doing the right thing in the haircut and you're not then wasting any time from that point forward. So all I'm doing now is just coming through and showing you what I've just seen. So if you look at that, what's happening is that's actually falling triangular. So I've been able to actually work from a longer point or a heavier point to now a lighter point in the back, just based on that sectioning pattern and the cutting angle that I'm trying to do. So to me, it's all about knowledge. You know, it's knowing exactly what you're doing. So you're in the driving seat, you know what I mean? You're in control over what you're doing. So now what I'll do is I'll just continue this into these last two sections, or three maybe, two, in the back here, and show you what's happening with. See now, look at all this hair that hasn't been cut. And there again, there's my outline. And you're going to see the angle of that graduation. So what's happening is we're connecting through into that outline and we're using it as our guide. So here I'll just pivot off that. I'll take the guide. So the hair right before it. Get rid of what's not needed. And again, I'm going to pull this straight out from the hair. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to put her more left, so she's not so tilted forward.
She's looking at her phone.
Yeah, she's on her phone. and you know, just add more to the mix, right? Of trying to cut the haircut, and then they're on their phone. So there's the guide. Just following that, you see how much more hair I'm cutting in the back than I was the front. Again, that's that circular section. So the higher up, the smaller that circular section is, then it's less graduation because you've used most of that for your outline. And then you're literally just taking that corner off on the top. So if you want like a nice heavy beveled bob, brilliant technique for that. If you want this to be a really graduated bob, you can also do that by just taking a larger circular section. This haircut has its origins from Vidal Sassoon, which is where I started my almost 30-year career as a teacher, and was named the Inside Out. But after, being a teacher at Vidal Sassoon, I quickly realized that it's actually the outside in. You know what I mean? So really great technique, but this is my spin on it. This is not exactly the same. This is me making it easier than what I learned. And I think that's kind of what we like to do here at Knowledge Destroys Fear, is just make your life easier. So we just had our last classes of the year. Kelly was up in San Francisco, and I was in Seal Beach. And we're going to have a few weeks off, and then we're back at it next year. I'm looking forward to heading to Australia in January to work with Evo. And then early February, we have the premiere show in Anaheim. And we're going to be doing look and learn classes there. And we are doing a hands-on class like we usually do. The hands-on class sells out pretty quickly, so get yourself on premiereanaheim.com or whatever it is, and sign up for our classes. We'll also be in Orlando next year for Premiere. Those are the hair shows that we like to do, so we'll be there. And I think we're going to schedule a scissor razor class together. So it'll be me teaching the scissors on one side of the head, and then on the other side of the head, Kelly's going to teach the razor. So we're going to do a hands-on class here in San Diego for that. We'll put the dates up soon. Again, our space here is limited. We do 10 people. That's it. So very intimate gathering, and And then I've got my masterclass. The February one just sold out, so that's full. We've got another one June 23rd and 24th. That's 2 days with us here in the San Diego location, and we go through everything. So we go through all this stuff. When you see the famous wall of knowledge, we go through all of that. And like this, we just do really cool haircuts that we would do in the salon. It's fully hands-on. So that's available on if you follow the Linktree link in my bio, you'll find information for all of that. Okay, so I've finished this site now. I'm just going to give it a really thorough cross-check all the way through. So if I went from the front to the back, now I'm going to go from the back towards the front. And I'm going to look at the haircut this way and start checking anything that I don't like off. This is just to solidify the haircut, to make it stronger. And this is just, again, like a little cross-check, and, quite nice graduation there, right? So I'm just going to skim that line if there's anything that I don't like. I'm not using a ton of tension. I'm working here with a wavier texture of hair. So I'm just kind of working with this texture. So section by section. This is something that most people won't do, but it really does help the haircut. I think it's that difference, isn't it? That little bit extra. this is definitely where the Sassoonism comes through in me. It's very kind of instilled in there, that precision haircutting mentality.
Okay, I'm working into my last two sections in the back here. Now I'm going to be working, I want to kind of keep this nice and head hugging. Now we have these triangular layers on this side and the round layers on this side. So I'm kind of trying to balance these two out. So I'm just taking a look at what is on the canvas that I'm working on, which I think as experienced hairdressers too, we have a lot of these corrective cuts, especially after, quarantine times when people were cutting their hair at home. I had a lot of, reparative hair cutting to do, which I enjoy. It's a bit of a puzzle in problem solving. So you can see here how these were our long, layers that were long here. And then on this side, I have these shorter layers into the length there. So I'm really just going to be using this length on my shorter layers here to kind of blend, bring that over. So we'll have a bit of a disconnect from this stuff that's underneath, but I think that adds just like a lot of extra texture to it because I don't want to go too short in this occipital into the crown area. So kind of following where those layers were from last time, I'm going to take a bigger clue here. I can see where that disconnect is, and I'm just going to shorten those up. So I know that I went from short to long on this side. So that's what really, I'm just going to kind of blend that side in. So over directing each one into the previous so that I get short to long going on this side. I want to work from underneath here. I'm liking the different textures that I'm getting from flipping the razor, like working on the top down into the bottom this way. So I kind of want to experiment and see what we get if I do that same sort of thing. So working from the bottom into that top section here, so that I think we're going to get just like a lot more kick up this way because that's the angle that my blade is working with. And now I'm going to remove some of this density here because it's real thick up on the top. Next section, split this one into my previous. And with razor cutting too, it's finding your guide can be a little more complicated because your guide falls away before you start cutting. Now, if I was cutting with the scissors, I could see where my guide is, pull my fingers to it exactly, and then cut right at my guide. Now, we can't do that with the razor. We need to go past our guide and start cutting. So sometimes that can fall away a little bit, but I can see where that density breaks up. I think also just having a vision of what shape you're creating is going to be really helpful. I kind of imagine it to like tattoo artists, when I watch it on Instagram, it looks like the ink is just flooding the line that they're trying to follow, but they know intuitively where that line that they're following. So that's kind of...
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, how can you see?
It looks like they're going in blind,
all that
right?
fine detail that is done.
Yeah, so kind of that same idea where I know what shape I'm trying to create and having just that little bit of a blur from my guide in there. It's good to have that foundational education of what shape I'm trying to create. So now we're matching up on both sides here. So that's looking pretty cool. So this last section, just gonna bring that in. So we're getting lots of flips and texture back there. Coming in underneath, I can see my guide. There, it's falling away. So now I know that I'm gonna start cutting. Okay, I know when to stop cutting and resection and recomb. When I'm losing tension in my holding finger and my holding hand, that's really important here with the razor because once I cut it, it reacts and bounces back. So what's left in my hand is the stuff that I've cut. As opposed to with the scissor, when I hold and cut, what's left is the stuff that is going to stay on the head. So that's just a little bit different as well. Cool shade. All right, so now I'm still having a little bit of a disconnect from our crown section into the back here. So I'm just going to be blending that in. I can see where that point is that was created. Just give that a right there at the crown, and I'm just going to double check here to make sure that this is all blended in. Same on this side. Oh, just a little bit. So I'm just going to pinch that so I have control, and then just kind of take that off. She's a mullet.
She's a mullet.
Yeah, okay, so now I'm just gonna kind of like rake through this a little bit and place the hair into a organized manner, and then probably add a little bit of product, and but that's about it. It's really kind of that wake and shake, fun mullet, extreme shag, I guess, too. This is kind of more of the mullety vibes, you know, when I do a lot of these haircuts in salon, mullet into shag, into, you know, pixie mullet, so,
Yeah,
you know.
it's got that vibe too.
Yeah, so I think if we like cut the ear out, I think it would be much more of that like fairy nymph, wood nymph pixie mullet, but I'm kind of liking a little bit of this length on here. But that's it. Then if you have any questions or want to talk to me about razor cutting, you can find me on my Instagram, Kelly Does Hair. I'll post a video of this finished, or a photo of this finished look on my Instagram as well. Thanks. Yay!
All right, so I've decided I'm going to do something on the other side. So I've established my outline exactly the same way. And I've got that circular section. So I've gone from apex to occipital area, as you can see. So I've got my outline there all the way through now. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to layer this. So quite simply, what I'm going to do is I'll just kind of section that head into two now. So right through the crown to behind the ear. And this is probably one of the easiest ways to do a layered bob, because again, I've utilized that. I've got my outline. Now my outline is actually from the occipital down. Now, if you look at where the occipital is, guys, it's literally where the hairline is in the front. So below this point, really, this is bonus hair. We don't have that hair up front. So we have to be very careful of what's happening with this hair right here at the hairline, because we don't have any hairline down here. So we have to worry about this. So I know that what I've created here, as you can see, is my length. So I don't want this to be changed. I don't want to cut the layers too short that when I get through to the front, this gets changed, this gets cut. So I know that from the occipital ridge and below is this space where there's literally no hair in the front. So I'm going to use the occipital area as a guide. Now that is something that you guys can take with any haircut you do, whether it's this length up here. If you use the occipital as the guide in the back, then you will protect the length through the front. So occipital or higher, protect. Below, you got to start wondering about what's going to happen here, okay? So that's kind of a universal thing. So now all I'm going to do is take and I'm going to find my outline right there. Can you see it's just poking through? Right there, that's my outline. So I'm going to use that as the guide. So now, completely different technique. Graduation builds weight, layers removes it. So I'm actually cutting a line now that follows the contour of the head shape. Whereas on the other side, I was cutting to get longer and heavier towards the top. So graduation, my weight line's all the way down there. The layers, it's up here. So that's the difference between layering and graduation, internal weight. I'm gonna pull the hair straight back, so away from the front. Again, straight back, away from the front. Bob. Still protecting my outline. So now I'm layering while protecting this outline. The outline's done. I could do what I want with this really. So I'm always going to protect it now. So now I'll continue those sections. So what was vertical in the back is now horizontal in the front as you cross through the crown. Easy way of saying that is profile sectioning. Again, there's a lot of different terminologies out there. So we try to kind of use all of it so you guys know what we're talking about. So what I'm doing is I'm working to that length right there. I already have a guide as to where to go to. That's my length. So I'll protect that. So my over direction was straight back, which means as you cross through the crown, that becomes straight up to the ceiling. So we go through the crown. So everything gets to go 90 on this particular part of the head. And then I'm working to that spot up there because that's where the length is. Last bit. Same exact process.
Done.
Right? How easy was that? So one side I graduated, one side I layered. Cool, right? So the higher or smaller the section, less layering, more outline. Less graduation, more outline. The bigger the circle, more layers, more graduation. So I hope you like that one. That's quite a cool tutorial there, just showing, you know, different distributions of weight vertically, but the same horizontally. So working off the bob. So what I would do now is I would come in and put my favorite product in here, Evo. I like to use Easy Tiger, and sometimes if there's quite a wave or curl in there, I'll mix Easy Tiger and a little bit of the liquid rollers together. And what I'll do is I'll just pop that, I'll show you just a little bit here. This is what I got from Kelly. So I'll just do this kind of panel. Bit of stuff in the hands. And then just kind of working that product through the hair from underneath and the top, getting it worked in there. And then what do you call this? The rake?
Rake and shake?
The rake and shake. So just coming back, align the hair to do its thing.
Look at that.
Right? Nice and easy. You don't have to make this stuff complicated.
No. Let the hair do what it wants.
Exactly. It's going to do what it wants when you're not there.
Oh, someone asked to do a rockabilly cutting class.
Rockabilly cutting class.
Yeah.
Is it bangs?
I don't know, but
So
that
a lot
sounded
of
kind of fun.
short bangs on, and then a lot of kind
V-bangs?
of quiffs
Yeah.
going on. Yeah, we could do that. We could show you what happens in those things.
Oh, yeah.
So you see how that just kind of like layers up by itself then? So just putting the product through. And then just letting it do its thing. So then what would I do? Just come over here with the diffuser pointed down and I bake that hair to literally almost dry. I wouldn't touch it. And then when it's almost there, that's when I start getting my hands in there and moving it around. These were just literally letting the hair do what it wants to do. So I put my product in, bake the hair, let it dry naturally without me doing anything to it. And then once it was almost there, I start to go in and allow that hair to do what it does. And you kind of get that more natural lived in look. It doesn't look like you diffused it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Remember the 90s when we diffused hair and it just looked diffused? It's all crispy, but not in any shape. So yeah.
It's that effortless feel,
Yeah.
right?
That like wake and shake.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
did it yourself.
Yeah.